Hi there, and welcome to today's very different, very interesting, inspiring conversation with Roman Egenberger. So, we did not have a plan for this conversation. We did not know what's going to happen. We came with open mind. I knew Roman from LinkedIn. I knew that he's an interesting human being who has interesting perspectives, but this was a little bit of a wild card to know what this episode is going to be about, and we meshed so well together. We talked about humanness, about the human connection, about, making the world a better place, about a life journey, about travel, about, leaving your country and coming back to it. We talked about coffee. We talked about all sorts of wonderful things. We got two golden nuggets for the price of one today. Shows you how good of a salesman Roman is. So, without any further ado, let's go in and let's feel the wonderful energy of today's conversation.
But here I am again, before we start the episode, this is the reminder. Please like, follow, share, hit those notification buttons to get reminders or notified when our episodes go live or are uploaded. Please do share, do like, and we just wanting to grow this podcast and grow it, because we get so much beautiful information. And as Lenka said, we got two gold nuggets for the price of one. And yes, one of them is towards the end, so you got to sit through and listen, but it's well worth it. And just a quick last reminder about our newsletter. The link is down in the descriptions. Do subscribe to our newsletter, because we share some of the wonderful wisdom and knowledge that our guests have shared. We only send it out twice a month, so you don't get bombarded with it. But it would be great just to connect with topics or tips or advice on those newsletters. But now let's go into our really amazing conversation that we had with Roman.
Hi, Roman. How are you?
Hello, Lenka. Hello, Natalie. I'm very well, thank you.
So I always say that this conversation will be maybe a little bit of a wild card. I know it will be interesting, but I have no idea what we're gonna talk about. So let's start by introducing yourself a little bit to our listeners and to ourselves, to myself and Natalie. Who are you? What do you do? What, gives you the fire to wake up in the morning? Why are you here on this planet Earth? All these little unimportant questions.
So my name is Roman, and I live in the principality of Liechtenstein, which already makes me a bit of an oddity because there's not that many of us here. And I love when others describe how they see me or what they think I do, which is the same way I run my LinkedIn profile, because the headline and the whatever profile description, they've all come from someone else. So I love that I don't have to come up with who I think I am, but I just go through life and then I pick up bit and pieces as to how others see me in life. But to use my own words, I'd say that I'm a middle-aged, not so grey, not really angry man who deeply cares about other people and is deeply curious. And that's led me to many places, both geographically, but also in terms of environments and what I was able to contribute in those fields. So nowadays, I describe myself as a portfolio human, which is probably something we'll get into at some point. And what that means, well, I will not disclose that right now. And there is not, and most importantly, it's not something that I want to put meaning into. So that's the conversations I'm having with a lot of people, just to see whether, that could be a container that could mean something to loads of people, and it might not have to mean the same thing for everyone.
And we're starting already interestingly with the way, in marketing, we would say that the brand is not what we say about us. It's what people say about us behind closed doors. So you just take it to a different level that you take what people, tell to your face or describe you in a comment or that how they introduce you to other people. I think it's always interesting to observe of how would people introduce us to other people? What is it that they pick up is the interesting thing about us. So for me, when I would introduce you to Natalie, I would say, he's an interesting creator on LinkedIn. He talks about humans and life and experience, and he's creative and definitely has lots of facets to his life. Sometimes it goes over my head with some of your content, but it's the beauty of that. So for me, yeah, absolutely, the curiosity in there, the creativity in there, the bringing the humanness, and absolutely there's such a depth of how much you care about people and human beings and community and really bringing people together. So I would love to know a little bit more, how did you ended up being where you are right now or who you are right now? Because I presume you did not just, been born this way, you were not fully this person, at university, at high school, at your first job. There is some sort of a progression to get to where you are right now. I'd love to learn a little bit more about some of the moments maybe on your journey that you feel like shaped you and got you to where you are right now.
I describe myself as a short man, so I'm not very tall. And as you would expect, I wasn't the tallest child either. So even at an early age, I would always have to talk myself out of any difficult situation I would have gotten myself in. And if that wasn't enough, then I would kind of step back, and then my good friend George would step forward, and he would then, deal with the situation. So that kind of taught me at an early age that uh, I could, or let's say that language was a tool that I could use and that would serve me well. And I remember then when I was 15, because where I grew up in Liechtenstein and in Switzerland, a lot of children do not go to uni, nor do they kind of go on that path. But after secondary school, at the age of 15, you quit school. You don't drop out of school, but you finish school, and then you start an apprenticeship. And that gets you into work life at an early age. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And so that's then when the parents come in and say, what do we do with young Roman? And my uncle had a print shop, and he had no kids. And there was the idea, well, if I did my apprenticeship in his print shop, then at some point I could take it over, and that could kind of be a career for life. But then at that moment in time, he didn't have space. He didn't have a desk for an apprentice. He was about to set up a new shop, but that was too early. And he said, well, I can't take you. We have to put you elsewhere. And then a cousin of mine had done an apprenticeship in a bank. And since I could talk, as I said, and I was reasonably good with numbers, they said, well, I brought everything that I needed to become a banker. And that's how I ended up in banking at the tender age of 15. And all that I wanted to do, to be really honest, was to get abroad. So I wanted to go away, which, if you grow up in a country of 160 square kilometers, is not that unusual. And I thought that banking could actually be uh, what could, get me elsewhere. And that's then how it happened. And it got me to various places in Switzerland and then the US, Canada for study purposes. And then I went back to business school. And then I went to Zurich, Hong Kong, Singapore, came back. And it got me to see places, and that was wonderful. But I just told this story to another friend of mine a few days ago that my sister-in-law's husband's father, when he saw me for the first time, and I told him that I was in banking, he said, "What? someone like you should be in sales. And I had no idea what he was talking about. But nowadays, that's pretty much what I do. I I'm in sales, and yeah, it's taken some time, and it wasn't a straight line that got me there. But yeah, so it was pretty much being short, being able to talk, living in a small country, a desire to get out to the world, and then having once again someone else see something that I at the time couldn't see myself, and then over time just finding a different direction.
And it's so interesting that you said you ended up being in sales because I think we still live in a world where the sales has quite a lot of negative connotations. When we say sales, we imagine these kind of a sleazy, annoying, pushy people, who try to sell ice to Eskimos and who try to sell, the things that you don't need. And so it's interesting then to connect this to, you seem very proud to be in sales and it's working for you. And you're such a lovely person who really cares about people. So for me, it's like, how does that make sense? So what does sales kind of mean to you? Like, how do you, you know, bridge this stereotype that your sales is annoying and sleazy?
What I engage myself in nowadays is primarily a focus on people. So I say, Lenka, I want to do something with you, whatever that is. And if we find an area where you and I think I can contribute something, then I'll engage myself in that, whatever that may be. But the primary driver for me would be my desire to do something with you. And if then we conclude on doing X or Y, and I then get deeper into X and Y, and I develop, a deep relationship with X and Y, so that I feel connected with it and I feel strongly about it, and that there is an urge that, that is something the world needs. And, that's a very critical question that I ask myself all the time. Does the world need more of X or does the world need more of Y? And if I conclude for myself, yep, the world needs a bit more of this, and I can contribute to that. I can play my part in spreading that. Then I'm so enthusiastic about it that I just try to bring that enthusiasm over to someone else. And if it doesn't connect, then that's perfectly fine. But it would always be a function of somehow sensing the enthusiasm and the connection that I experience. If that is something that gets across, then it may lead to a cooperation in some sort or form, and it may lead to a transaction as well. But that would always be the secondary effect of engaging the person in what I believe in, and engaging the person with what excites me about it and why I think it's important. And that's why the transaction may be a derivative of connecting with the person, and it may not, and that's perfectly fine. But I love the exchange and the conversation with the people. So I wouldn't, I wouldn't sell to an email address. I wouldn't sell to an anonymous somehow, info at or something. I need that connection with the person, and that's what really energizes me, and that's how I believe I spread some of the energy that I feel in the areas that I'm active in.
That's really a beautiful way that you've described that, because it's bringing in the humanness into the sales process, so to speak. As you said, it's having that connection. It's not selling to an email address or just random and just this is what I've got and you have to have it, but it's actually building that human connection, the communication to see, are we a good fit, and what I have, is that a good fit for you, and it's okay if it's not.
That's right.
And it's really lovely the way you described it, because I think that's so important, that we need to reconnect to each other as humans, not as, I don't know, keyboards or numbers or just randomness, but really to treat each other as a fellow human being in business. And not every business will suit every person. And it's just finding that connection through the communication, through that backwards and forwards, through just talking or just listening and just being there and saying, I have X, Y, and Z. You looking for X, Y, and Z? Is it the same X, Y, and Z, or is it different? Or what is it, and can we work together? And I love how you describe that, because it just, humanness is one of my favorite words, and it's something that I'm so passionate about. And when you were talking about that, I'm like, yes. This is like, hitting all my little buttons. So thank you for sharing that, because as Lenka says, when we think of sales, for me, it's that sleazy car salesman who's trying to sell you a car that doesn't work because you're a woman or you don't actually understand cars, but you want to speak to somebody who will say to you, you know what, this is a good car, but this is not working, or this is not working. Is this something that you can deal with, or do you want something different? Instead of like, I have this car, I need to sell it to you because you don't know cars, but you need a car, so therefore I'm just going to sell it to you so I can hit my quota. And I love how you bringing that humanness back in, is to bring that trust back in sales people, because I think that's so important. Is there's not many people who haven't been burnt by a salesman, and I just think, yes, we need more salesmen like you, especially on the car floor, in the car shops and in plumbers and just all the places where you get I'm generalizing now, the sleazy salesman, and to have a human at the end is just so beautiful. So I'm sure you won't ever run out of places to work. You can go train these salespeople. So thank you for really sharing that and bringing the human and the humanness back into sales, because that is so important.
Yeah, and I think there are two other aspects that are very important to me. Number one, there needs to be a backstory. Okay, so there needs to be something bigger than whatever the product, the service is. There needs to be a backstory that we need to be able to relate to, and that then offers me the opportunity to tell the story about the backstory and to relate that to the person sitting in front of me. So I love stories, and without the backstory, it'd be it'd be very hard. And I don't like to, to make up the story. So I like to tell it in a way that I've experienced it, which may not be the way that others may have experienced, or may have had the same experience, but I love to tell the story the way that I experienced it, and it has to relate to something that is far bigger than me. And that then really puts myself, back into the back seat. It's not about me. It's not about what I get. It's not about, why it's important to me. But look, this is you, and this is the bigger story that I want to introduce you to. And if there's no connection, then it might just not be for you, or it might just not be the right time, and that's perfectly fine, So that's fine. But that's what I want to offer to you. So therefore, it's more of an offer. It can be accepted, can be rejected, can be put on hold, whatever we decide on doing. but it's really making an offer in a way that connects a bit deeper than just intellectually, does it make sense? Do I understand it? And is it priced accurately? So there are other aspects that I love to bring into that conversation. And yeah, and it's not a function of, whatever then eventually is being concluded on, but it's more the process of being curious about the person and the love and the care for, whatever I'm a part of. Yes.
So I just want to go back to when you sort of introduced yourself. First of all, there's nothing wrong with short men because my husband is short. So my husband is, short as well, and I'm quite short. So nothing wrong with short men. I like short men. So I'm just putting that out there.
Okay, for the record, that's good. Thank you.
And also I wanted to just a little bit because unless you're really quite knowledgeable on the atlas, Liechtenstein is a tiny little dot in the middle of Europe somewhere. It's near Germany, Switzerland. And I've actually been to Liechtenstein. It was one of my bucket list goals, and I'm half Swiss. So I've been to Switzerland a few times. Do not speak the language to me because I'm one of those Swiss who doesn't speak the language. But I wanted to go to Liechtenstein, and just for our listeners, and I'm explaining Liechtenstein from my point of view. For somebody who's living in there, you must probably be thinking this is not the way it is. But Liechtenstein really is tiny. I come from South Africa. South Africa is huge. And you go to Liechtenstein, you can nearly walk around it in a day. I'm exaggerating,
You
but it
can.
is beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. And yes, Lenka even beats Spain on beauty. I'm sorry, but it is beautiful, and it reminds me of the fairy tales. You just think of fairy tales and castles and princesses and princes. It is almost an idyllic place. And this is from, I spent a day in Liechtenstein. I just caught the train from Zurich, go to Liechtenstein for the day, go have lunch, walk around. Doesn't take long to walk around. I think there's one big city, or well, it's small city, but I think it's big for Liechtenstein. And I don't think there's another city. I could be wrong about that. And then you get back on the train and you're back in Zurich and you've seen Liechtenstein. So it is a really beautiful place. It's tiny place. You really have to look on the map. And if you're going on Google Maps, you've got to make the map really big, hit that plus sign. But I'd love for you to explain, or just a little bit about what it's like to grow up in Liechtenstein. It's not a country you hear about often. You're the first person I've actually met from Liechtenstein. I've met people from all over the world, but you don't often meet people from Liechtenstein. So just describe it a little bit, or experiences that you've had, because it is such a small, beautiful country.
Well, I tend to introduce Liechtenstein as it's small. Well, the best thing about Liechtenstein is that it's small and everyone knows everyone. And the worst thing about Liechtenstein is it's small and everyone knows everyone. And it's within that tension that you live your life in this country. And growing up in Liechtenstein means that you can't go anywhere without you not being scared that your mom will find out what you've done the next day. Because you might run into people whom you don't know, but they're likely to know you. Because, it's my mom's tennis club buddy, or it's my dad's whatever motorcycle gang buddy. And they know you, but you don't know them. So, you're being reported anyway. So that's how you behave. You'd never know who's watching you, which is a bit scary as a kid, more so as a teenager. So over time, that desire to leave the country almost naturally builds. And a lot of people go, and most of them come back because they realize, man, it's not bad here, despite everything else. And it's safe, it's clean, everything works, everything's pretty damn expensive, but it's no different from Switzerland. But lots of decent jobs. So Liechtenstein we've hit the 40,000 people number, I think a year ago, but we have 43,000 jobs. So we have more jobs than people because we have lots of people commuting into the country from Austria, Switzerland, but also Germany. So there's about 20,000 people commuting in every day and about 6,000 people commuting out. There was a number of large companies. There was a finance industry. That's what we're known for. Famous, infamous finance, low taxes. So the question, do we pay taxes? We do, just moderately. And the contribution of the industrial sector is more important than in Germany. So we're more industrialized than Germany. So we're not just a suit and tie country, but there is actually, proper work done in this country too. And growing up in Liechtenstein really makes you, proud as a Liechtensteiner. And when then you go abroad on holiday or a few months into language school, you're very often the first of your kind. And that kind of leads to you giving a presentation in the country, you explaining to everyone in the dining room, what Liechtenstein's all about. So you practice quite actively on your understanding of Liechtenstein, and you get that perspective from the outside as well, which helps a lot. But you have to get comfortable with that smallness, with that everyone knows everyone. And just as an example, I work now temporarily one day a week in a Chinese restaurant in Vaduz, where I grew up. And when there are kind of old ladies coming for an afternoon coffee, they would look at me and say, "So that's the Liechtenstein saying of tell me who you are." In Germany, we would say, "Whom do you belong to?" Okay. And I think it's very funny because I'm not 12 or 17 anymore. I'm 50 plus, but they would still ask me that question because they want to find out who my mom or dad are, so that they can kind of put me into the right family. And if they put me into the right family, they know everyone else in my gang. They also know the family's party association politically. That's known too. That obviously changes a bit over generations, but still they would kind of associate me with a political party just because of who they know who my mom or my grandparents are. And so that's definitely um, odd or can make you feel a bit uncomfortable. But on the other hand, there's lots of things that you can get done in this country because you can easily know, or you will know, the people who can make something happen. And well, in German, we have the polite you and the personal you, and kind of the polite one applies to the princely family, but not the other 40,000. So you're, pretty much on a very personal level with everyone right away. And so, for instance, when we have projects in this country and there is a question, we need to bring this into retail, you know, an edible product. And then we say, well, retail in this country has a name, a first name, a last name, and that's where he lives. So things can be done if you play it according to the Liechtenstein Playbook. But you have to know the rules and you have to play according to the rules. But then things can be done quite easily, I guess.
And you've described that so beautifully. And, growing up in South Africa, as I said, it's a huge country where nobody knows nobody, you know, your business is your business. So it's almost like the opposite, but I guess there's advantages and disadvantages, as you said. But for business, it's that business thrives so much in such a small country because most probably it is the Liechtenstein Playbook. I like the way you said that. But thank you for sharing that. And it's obviously a question you're quite used to, is describe Liechtenstein, because you normally the first Liechtensteiner that anybody's met. So,
Right.
but it's just, as I said, it's the country that I've always wanted to go to, and I did get to visit it, and I'm so pleased about it, and it's one of those bucket lists. So I am so thrilled to actually have had it, to have a guest on our podcast from Liechtenstein. So thank you for sharing that. It's just one of the things that I wanted to know, and now I've got to ask it. But you have described it really well, and it is a beautiful country. And anybody, seriously, if you're going to Germany, Switzerland, or anywhere, do make a trip to Liechtenstein, because it's clean, it feels safe, it's just beautiful. It's idyllic. But I'm talking about as a tourist. I appreciate it's always different when you live somewhere, but it can't be that bad because you've gone back, you've left, and you've gone back. So thank you for sharing that, your experiences. So one of the questions we were talking about before I sort of digressed down into Liechtenstein is the humanness, the bringing that humanness into business, because sales is business in a way. Is what got you really focused on that human connection? Because it's very easy to just slap an email or pressure or just not have that connection. What got you interested in wanting to build that human connection, and to be the human behind the salesman, so to speak?
I go back from Asia. So we used to live in Zurich, and then I moved to Asia with my family. So 4 years in Hong Kong, two in Singapore, then rather unexpectedly made it back to Europe, working in Zurich and then living in Liechtenstein. And then I knew that, well, I would have to go back to Liechtenstein too, because if you, on the map again, if you go from the Dudes to Lausanne, Zurich, Hong Kong, Singapore, Zurich, Rukel, which is the tiny village I live in now, it really is the end of the trip. And, would be announced, final stop, please get out, don't leave anything behind. So I knew that I had to kind of get out of that global banking industry. And then, but I didn't know what else I could do, because that's what I did all of my life. And I knew that I could talk, and was good with numbers. So I had to find my way into something where the talking and the numbers were helpful. And then my father-in-law asked me whether I wanted to join his trust business. And initially, my response was, look, I've spent all my life in banking and didn't always feel good about it. Now, to become a Liechtenstein trustee, that doesn't make things any better, I think. But then I thought, well, it takes me back into the country. It's from a 70,000 people company to a 25 people company. That's a good move in the right direction. It's definitely not the industry that I had envisaged, but you can't just tick all of the boxes in one. And I remember the first times then I went to Zurich, it was some sort of, the old style networking event over lunch. So everyone in suit and tie. And I then showed up. And when you introduce yourself in Zurich as a Liechtenstein trustee, the people would put on their best smile, look at you, say, oh, right, okay. And then they would move on. They wouldn't even get into a conversation because they believe that they know everything about you. And to me, that was just horrible. It was almost like, wait, you know, we haven't yet had a conversation, but it was almost like, no, I know you. It's like, whoa, no, you don't, and that was bad at the time, but it really opened my eyes to how others perceive you based on your job or the industry you're a part of. And I definitely knew that I wouldn't want to be defined by my title or my industry. But that was just one of those moments that, when looking back today, was really a defining moment, because I said, this aggression will not stand. Okay. But instead of changing everyone else, I thought, it's probably easier. And given that we have some time constraints in one life, I can't change everyone. I'll just try work on myself. And then I got into, also rather accidentally, then into other circles of people that had nothing to do with the world that I thought I was a part of. And that really opened my eyes, where I got just in conversation with people who had, from a business perspective, completely undeveloped and not fully thought through ideas that I knew would never see the light of the day. And then you had other people who supported those people with those not so baked through ideas for nothing, and who then claimed that they got so much in return. And I thought, what's going on here? Yeah, what kind of world is this where people behave this way? And it's not only a setup, they're genuine about it, and they really love the space they're in. They love the people that are in that space, and that really opened up a world for me. And I said, "Holy moly! If that's real, what would need to happen for me to step into that world?" And it was then a fool's workshop that really got me, I'd say, across the line, in the sense that really broke open the parts in me that had been not only closed off to the rest of the world, but also to myself. And as we all know, the hardest part is the work on ourselves. And that was, painful in many, many ways. But it really kind of got me to where I am today, so that I no longer have to define myself based on what I do. And the good thing is that nobody knows what I do. Nobody defines me other than, we don't know what this guy is doing. But that's okay. It's kind of more open, and leaves just room for imagination, let's call it that.
And I like how we're kind of doing a little bit of a circle back to when we were talking about, how you approach sales, and that it's all about, do I really want to see more of this in the world and less of this? And do I really feel connected to this idea, to this person, to this project? So I would be curious to know, what is this that you really want to see more of in this world? What are the things that are right now on your mind? Talking about connecting people and bringing into humanness and helping people, realize. But what are the direction? What are the, maybe some examples of the businesses, maybe some ideas of the projects or values that kind of underpin what do you want to see more of in this world, and what are you working towards?
I think the one of the important aspects is that I don't want to do anything that comes at the expense of someone or something else. That kind of someone wins, someone or more than someone loses. Winners win, losers lose, and there is always that, which side are you on? And so keeping that in mind as almost, an overriding rule, whatever I do should not come at the expense of someone else. The other thing is that I don't think we've done everything extremely well over the last 50 or 70 years, looking at the state of affairs right now. So not everything's worked out so well. Therefore, anything that could at least try to bring new ideas, new models, new ways of doing to the way that we approach life and work in general are probably needed. Whether or not they're the right ideas and the right models at the right time for the right problem, that's a different story. But unless we try, we will not find out. So therefore, anything that has an open-ended outcome, I'm curious about. And anything that requires more than just money, I'm also curious about, because that kind of means, okay, so we need to build something over and above that is packaging, wrapping, the glossy part of the shiny ones that we get attracted to. So we have constraints, and let's try to use those constraints. A beautiful constraint is one of my favorite books that writes about if you don't have any constraints, then create them because you will benefit from that. So that's another aspect, and so right now I have my own cafe, the Granville Cafe, which I got into very accidentally because I didn't drink coffee at the time, but a friend of mine was a coffee nerd, and then together we said, why don't we open a restaurant or a cafe? But then that sounded like too much, and we then bought a mobile cafe, so a van and a coffee machine, set it all up. He then made sure that everything worked and functioned well. He was the barista too. And I was just the guy selling the coffee, and he made the coffee, and that was a perfect setup. But he then said, "So what now?" And I said, "Well, now we just, you make coffee and I sell the coffee." But then, that wasn't his plan of life, and he left me alone, and now I'm doing everything on my own. But I'm not selling coffee. So what I'm doing is I'm creating spaces where people feel comfortable, where they come together, where something can happen, where a conversation takes place, where they feel comfortable, etc., etc. So when someone has a coffee problem, there are coffee solutions. When someone has more of a community conversation culture problem or a desire to work on that, then I'll come. And the coffee would always be kind of a side aspect of it because everything or most things in life just go easier with good coffee, let's say. And then through coffee, I got into a note drink venture that is organized as a cooperative. And that was just huge for me because I met one of the founders of that cooperative on a coffee farm in Nicaragua when I had my coffee farm training. And that's one of those examples where I said, if ever I had an opportunity to work with Philip, I would always do that. But then I thought, how could that be? He's a two-time Swiss barista champion. He plays Champions League. I play third amateur league. There's just that gap's just too wide. But then the universe decided against that, and we came together, and I'm now co-running that cooperative that just is the answer to Oatly in Switzerland, locally sourced ingredients as a cooperative. You need to remember to source the product. It's not profit driven. It is a service to the community and the coffee business. And so that's beautiful. And other aspects are exhibitions that I develop, curate, and then run with a friend of mine in the open space for the general public on discrimination. Now we're just pitching for money on a new exhibition on inclusion. And yeah, so that's just with public mm, social cohesion, communication amongst people who don't know each other. Yeah, so that's the spaces that I'm in right now, and it's all people driven. So it's the kind of humans first, and I'm just deeply curious about that interaction with the people and what that brings in terms of new opportunities for everyone.
I love that. And as you said, coffee is or hot drink of your choosing. Let's not discriminate against those people who do not understand the beauty of a really good coffee. Like I love coffee. I'm not a coffee snob, so I like good coffee, but I cannot tell much of a difference between coffee blends and coffee flavors. But I enjoy is the routine of having the good coffee, the smell, the warmth, the people. But I do feel that we live a little bit in a world where we tend to label people and coffees and, discriminate or judge like, oh, you're drinking latte, you're not drinking, the pour over, you're drinking this, you're not drinking that. So I love that you're using coffee as just this a way to bring people together to create and collaborate and to strangers to get to know each other. And the coffee is there, it's wonderful, but it's not the purpose, it's not the point, it's not to, argue over which coffee bean is the better one or which approach of making coffee is the better one. There are places for that and there are people who do that and it fits, but I love, your approach to, how coffee solves the human situation.
Yeah, that's right. And lots of times, we just say, can we go for a coffee? And if someone approaches you and says, can we go for a coffee? It's not about the coffee. Okay. So it's always about, and by the way, what we need to talk about is this or this, or what I need to tell you, what I need your advice on, I need your help. And it always starts with, let's go for a coffee. And I think that's where the power lies. And I always say, my latte art is really bad. Okay. And I can only two types of, you know, designs. One is the beautiful heart, and the other one is the not so good looking heart. But that's it. But I always say, there's always the same amount of love in the coffee, and that's non-negotiable. Where you'll find your coffee, there's lots of love. You may not see it right away, but once you taste it, that's what I've tried to give you. And that's normally then also felt that way. Yeah.
Think it's the energy transmission that goes into it. We can go a little bit, spiritual quantum physics, a little bit above the fact that it's yes, there's some beans, there's some process of preparing the beans, and we can go into the science of how to make a good coffee. But what you describe now, it's the beauty of the energy exchange, of the love that goes in, that no matter what beans you have and what type of coffee you prepare and where and how you drink it, is the intention, is the love, is the energy that comes into it, and you can feel that, and we can feel it with being here with you, talking to you. I can feel it from your LinkedIn posts. There's kind of energy exuding and coming out of you. It's always there's always the intention of being good, being helpful, being caring, and really putting, as you say, the humans, the people first. We can talk forever and ever, and I would love to know. There's so many more questions on my mind, so many more little detours that we could go and explore because your, again, story and journey and approach to life, I think that was the thing that intrigued me and wanted to have this conversation with you. It's just the way you really approach life, approach creativity, approach business. It's so unique and so refreshing. So thank you so much for really taking the time to be here with us.
Hop on to our Patreon account to get this episode's amazing and wonderful gold nugget. For our listeners, if they're thinking, I want to connect with Roman, I want to find out a bit more, I'm interested in being in his circle or just looking at your posts, where can people find you?
Really, LinkedIn is the place. If I'm not in hibernation, which I am every now and then, then it's on LinkedIn every single day. And yeah, there is a number of Roman Egenbergers, but if there is coffee somewhere in it, then it's probably going to be me. You found the right one.
And of course, we'll put the right link into the description so there will be no mistake that we're finding the right person with the right coffee. But as Natalie said, we love having a little bit more here. And I have one final question, and I'm so curious to know what your take on it will be. Because here in the podcast, we're all about finding more in one's life, to looking at ways to live happier, healthier, more fulfilling life, whatever it means to you. So I'm curious, what gives you life right now, or what overall in your life you've always been like, oh, this gives me life. Aside from coffee, we know that.
Relationships with people. And I extract so much energy from others. And there's that, um, the notion of an energy uh, sucking animal that pretty much sucks the energy out of other people, whereas I personally do not consider myself one of those, but I think that we can give each other so much energy in the way that we interact with each other, irrespective of whether or not we know each other. It's the small acts of kindness. It's the small uh, signals that we send to say, I see you, I appreciate you, glad that we met, and being present in the conversations that we have. And I just see when I'm low in energy and put myself back, hibernate on LinkedIn, don't go out much, don't reach out to people for, to have coffee, to meet or to, discuss ideas and anything, then I just feel, I'm not able to give. Therefore, I need to build a bit of core energy myself. But then once I have regained that, then I go out and then I just believe that it's an equally beneficial process of exchanging that energy with others. Not because I'm after this or I want to find out that or I want to sell this, but only because, I'm genuinely curious about and interested in you. And it it takes so little nowadays to have someone react to you in a very surprised way, just because you've acknowledged the presence of that person, you've been nice to that person, you've given that person a smile, and you're curious. You just want to know. I don't know, but why don't you tell me? Um, it doesn't take much, and oftentimes we say, I don't have the time. And that's the good thing about my way of life nowadays, that I always build in the time for that. And that's deeply enriching for me, that I'm open to those serendipitous encounters. And then others would say, that never happens to me. I say, oh, is that right? Okay, you run from one meeting to the next. You drive there by car. Okay. So I take the bus or I walk, and I have time before my meeting, then I have time after my meeting, and then something happens or it doesn't. But I just create the space that would allow for it. If it doesn't, it's fine. I have time for myself, which is equally, beneficial. But if I run into someone whom I then have a conversation, I can always say, I know, I have a bit of time because I build it in to my day that I have time for those moments. Then I don't know whether or not they happen. I think that is from a purely economic point of view, not that efficient at first sight. However, when you look at it from a rewards perspective, you know, afterwards, in hindsight, when you do the back testing, I can tell you, that model is highly profitable. But you have to invest into it, not knowing what the return will be. And I think that uncertainty is something that a lot of people just don't feel comfortable in, do not believe in, don't want to try and test out. But I know that, the system that I have developed for myself, it works. And it doesn't only work for me, it works for others as well. And therefore, I just keep going, maintaining it that way.
Thank you. And wow, it's just as you're building a system, as you said, that works for you, but it's the slowing down and it's giving yourself the time so that if something happens or you bump into somebody, you can have those connections. So you definitely very much connected with that humanness aspect of things. So thank you for answering that question, because it hopefully some of our listeners will think, oh, yes, let me see if I can start to build in time for those moments when needed. And like you said, if there's not somebody else there, have that time for yourself. And if nothing else, go have a coffee, go have a coffee or something.
But you know what? That's the the benefit of doing the work on yourself. It's the kind of a lot of people are scared of the time of themselves. Okay. So you need to be ready to also, if you don't bump into anyone else, to be with yourself. So not your mobile phone, not your laptop, but yourself. And that's a scary idea, I think, for a lot of people. And I had to work on that myself, but that then really pays dividends. That you're equally comfortable with someone you hadn't planned to meet, or be with yourself for a time that you hadn't planned for. And if both of those potential outcomes feel like enriching and nourishing for yourself, then you might realize, I do not need to pack the full day. Because even in those other time slots, good things will happen one way or another. And that then, kind of makes you think about it a bit differently, I guess.
And I think we just got another second little gold nugget that's going to be on this episode. So listeners, there were 2 gold nuggets. This one you got. Go on to Patreon for the first one. So thank you for that. And thank you for sharing your energy with us today, your experiences, your knowledge, and what you're working towards or planning, and your advice, especially about that exchange of energies. As you said, it's about giving as well as receiving. So thank you so much for your time, your energy, and just your wisdom.
Thank
And
you.
sorry, go.
It's been a real pleasure. I enjoyed it very much. And as I said, luckily we didn't know where this would take us.
And that's what we love about this. It's always live and no pre-prep questions. So thank you so much. And for our listeners, What have you got from today? What aha moments have you received? Is Liechtenstein something that you're going to, or country you're going to put on your bucket list to go and visit? It is well worth a trip, and you might even meet Roman with his coffee truck. Who knows? It is small enough that you could possibly just bump into him. But what have you got from today? What wisdom that Roman shared with us, especially about energies and communication and having that human connections? We would love to hear your stories. And are you working on the more human connections? We'd love to know, what is it that you're doing? How are you using your energies or planning your days? Do share with us in the comments below, or just reach out to us. You can reach out to myself or Lenka and just share with us your thoughts, your aha moments, or whatever it is. But until next time, we'll talk to you soon. Bye. Here is your reminder about our Patreon, where you get all our really beautiful gold nuggets. And today we had a fantastic gold nugget to share. Subscribe to Patreon. The link is in the description below. Hop into the gold nugget section to access all our wonderful gold nuggets. There is also a free section where you can access snippets from past episodes, as well as some great content with tips, advice, and beautiful and wonderful wisdom. Come and join up and be part of the Into Your Life community. We would love to see you there.